Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday's TFE Live. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, as you all probably know. This is show number 268 for normally the last day of February, the 28th of Feb, 2020. But this year, of course, is a little different. I'm your host, Tom Ehman, and it's different. Why? Julia?
Because it's the 29th in Australia and here tomorrow.
It's a leap year.
It is a leap year, and it's also, my mother would be 100 years old
Today. But actually, she only celebrated, what, 25 birthdays?
Yeah, 25 birthdays.
Cool.
She only had 25 birthdays. But people felt so sorry for her that they celebrated her the whole week before and the whole week after.
But didn't they celebrate? Don't leap year babies celebrate their birthday on either the 28th or the 1st?
They do it when anybody wants to.
Well, exactly. My co-host and our coordinating producer, Julia Wedekind, of course, who likes to say,
please like, share, and subscribe. Helps a lot. Now's a great opportunity to do it.
And if you're so inclined, go over to our main SailingIllustrated.com website and join us as a patron via Patreon. We appreciate that very much. Or you can give us direct contribution. This is viewer and listener-supported media. You can give us a direct contribution via PayPal. Yeah. Okay, welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Speaking of leap years, I did a little look into this today, and indeed, the 29th, as you probably all know, is tomorrow. It's happy leap year to those of you down under, across the date line from us, where it is already the 29th. And we probably all know why this happens, because the orbit of the Earth around the sun takes 365 and roughly a quarter, 0.24 days. So every 4 years, they add a day to make up for those quarter day losses in the previous 4 years. And then, of course, because that's not perfect, and because it's not exactly always 0.24 days as the Earth goes around the sun, they add another day every 100 years, but only on the 100 years divisible by 400. I'm sure, Julia, you knew that, right?
I did.
And on top of that, they make some leap second adjustments from time to time. And since the orbit of the Earth around the sun is not precise, nor is it predictable, they do this from time to time whenever the International Astrophysics, I think it is, Union decides. Did you know that the astrophysicists have their own union?
Yes.
But of course, it's union in the sense like the United States Yacht Racing Union or the Amateur Athletics Union,
yes,
not that they're a labor union.
They're right.
But this begs the question of the day. What exactly is a leap year, and why is it called a leap year? Do you have any idea?
Because it leaps.
What leaps? Does it leap like a frog, or what are we leaping over? It looks to me like we're actually adding a day, and that we're not leaping over the 29th. Well, of course, never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Yes.
And it turns out that after the 29th of February, dates leap 2 days forward, 2 days of the week. So last year, March 1st, was on a Wednesday. Or no, March. What is March? Well, let me use December since I have it in front of us. Last year, Christmas was on a
Friday.
No, this is 2020's calendar.
Oh.
Remember, Christmas
24th.
was on a Wednesday.
Oh, on a Wednesday.
It was on a Wednesday, remember? And so was New Year's, and we did those shows on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So the reason it's a leap year is because once this extra day comes along and people are used to saying, well, this year everything's 1 day later in the day of the week. Well, it's not. In a leap year, it's actually 2 days later. So it leaps 2 days forward. Yes. Christmas this year, instead of being on a Thursday, is actually on a Friday because of the addition of the 29th.
Instead of Wednesday, it will be on Friday.
Sorry, instead of Wednesday, it will be on Friday. No. Instead of this is too confusing. Instead of being this year on Thursday, last year was Wednesday. Instead of this year being on Thursday, as it would normally be, in a leap year, it leaps forward 2 days. The term leap year probably comes from the fact I should have just put this up here and read it.
Yes.
From the fact that a fixed date in the Gregorian calendar normally advances one day of the week from year to year. Why didn't I just put up, read that? Okay, you get the idea. Now that I've confused the hell out of all of us. I want to thank John Bertrand, JB, who was here with us for our show on Tuesday. And that show's had over 5,000 views. A lot of you complimented JB on his appearance and us for having him. Thanks, John, that's American John Bertrand, not to be confused with the famous Australian of the same name who won the 1983 America Skippering Australia 2 and is also a longtime and dear friend. JB and Julie and I celebrated the Olympic, at least the Olympic selection success of Steph Roble and Maggie Shea. Talked about them at some length, and John talked about how much of an improvement they have made of late. And he's made, he's helped make, as have all the other coaches, have all tried to help improve their performance, and they have. And he's also helping them now with their fundraising. And the ladies have up on their Facebook page or their website called RobleSheaSailing.com. We're so excited and honored that we've earned the privilege to represent Team USA in Tokyo. We only have 4.5 months before we check in at the Olympic venue, and let's all hope that happens. Our support team is growing, and we have a full and aggressive schedule to maximize this opportunity. They've got a gold medal plan. Long story short, cut to the bottom. They need all the financial support they can get, and you can do that at the fine print there. I'll go back to that. www.RobleSheaSailing.com/donate. And that, of course, is true for Olympic athletes around the world. And I don't know what is set up in the UK or in Austria, New Zealand, Spain, Germany for their athletes, but I'm sure you can be supporting your local Olympic, your national Olympic athletes as well. Now, we are hoping today, do you know who this is? He likes this picture. You know who that is.
Crazy. It's Jody Shiels.
Jody Shiels, who is doing commentary on the app, or supposedly on the app, for the SailGP, which has completed its first day today. And the second day of racing is tomorrow. And in fact, it's today in Sydney, which is Saturday. And Jody is en route, I think, from his home back down to Sydney for this event. And he promises to try to check in with us by Skype and tell us what actually happened out on the water, because it was a lot of action. It was quite. Did you watch any of that on the app?
I didn't. I'm sorry to say. I like the app because it's really good, but I was doing other stuff this morning.
It is, and I've just gotten a text from Richard Gladwell, and there's going to be some commentary also on all this from Mark Husted, one of our FOSI. But Richard's saying, he said, if you buy the SailGP app in one of the territories for which TV rights have been sold, you can't see the video replay on the app until 48 hours after the racing. They don't tell you that. Okay, even though Jody and Richard agrees with us, he said even though Jody's commentary make it worth the price alone. So that's kind of cool. Let's stop there. Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a big segment on SailGP today. Of course, it's the big thing going on in the sport, but let's stop there and welcome. Who's here? Marcelo Gervini and Julie, of course, Pedro Foiling Sailor. Marcus Fentner. Good, nice to talk with you this morning, Marcus. He called from Athens and filled me in on some interesting developments. And we talked about the Olympics and what he thinks is going to happen and what's happening in Europe. We'll talk about that when we get to the inevitable coronavirus block. Mark Hustad has joined, and he's going to give us some comments. David Pippinger, hello to you, David, long time. Sherry Smith, Warren Schasser from Brisbane. Leo Takahashi. Leo, have you qualified now for the Olympics? You have, right? I've run a picture of you. And it'd be good to get Leo back on here and see what his thoughts are about and he's half Japanese and half Kiwi, and see what his comments are about. In fact, Leo, if you want to put them in the comments, we'll, of course, run them. Julie is, as always, monitoring over there, both her computer and her phone diligently. Jay Hanfield in Newport, Rhode Island. Henry Reese. Sherry Smith says it's 64 degrees in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's the power boaters that call it Fort Lickerdale. Gerardo Sealer, good evening from Madrid. Hello, sir. The presidential candidate for world sailing, and God forbid that the current president continues because he is chaotic and croutonic. Mr. Anderson from Denmark, I'm sure he's got a heart of gold. But man, oh man, Gerard, I hope you or someone else running for president can take the reins of world sailing come November. In fact, that board is meeting right now, today and tomorrow, one hears. They have also one hears the financial problems are significantly worse. And I know the numbers. I'm not going to repeat the numbers because I'm going to write an article on the website. Significantly worse than they told the assembled, the gang assembled in Bermuda at their annual meeting in November. And they've cut costs like crazy. They're still cutting costs, but they've got some real problems, especially if what, Julia?
The Olympics are postponed or delayed or...
Yeah, either way, you're right. Even if they're delayed, they are not going to get the television revenue as soon as they had hoped. And if they, I mean, regardless, this thing's going to get cut back now. Even if the Olympics happens, they will get cut back, let alone. And God forbid, the athletes, they've got to have some kind of an Olympic event for the sake of the athletes who've been training for 4, 8, 12 years. We've talked about that with JB on Friday. Oh, what day is this? This is Tuesday, right? On Friday's show.
Even if it's disparate sites.
Yeah, even if, as you say, if they split them up and run sailing here and archery there and track and field or athletics, as you call it, you cannot do to these athletes, these sailors, well, all the athletes, what happened in 1980 when President Jimmy Croutonic Carter boycotted because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Well, we're not going to Moscow, as if that was going to somehow change their policy and approach. And by the way, Julie, it looks like the U.S. is signing a deal with the Taliban as early as tomorrow. It's been reported on the news just before we went to air. So that war may be, hopefully, knock on wood, after what, 20 years, 19 years, maybe coming to some kind of an end. I mean, those poor people have been at war with the Soviets or us or one other group or another for 40 years, for 4 decades.
And for 1,000 years before that. I mean, that war, they've been war torn for historically forever.
Society is.
But I believe in peace when I see it.
Well, okay, that's not very optimistic.
I'm not optimistic about it.
Come on, you got to get optimistic here. What day is this?
The 28th.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
It is Friday.
Yeah.
I'm confused, obviously. So when we had JB on the show on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay. Commodore Hart, nice to see you on here. Charlie's going to come on the show and talk about a very cool new initiative he's got going for this Bay Area that impacts the U.S. and beyond. Mm-hmm. You saw the email, right?
I did.
You sent him a note back.
Yep.
Marcus Feinstein, we haven't seen you in a while. Greetings from the patio bar at Gladstone's Long Beach, one of our regular supporters of this channel, and we appreciate John Sangmeister and Gladstone's. And if you're in that part of the world, if you're down in Long Beach, stop in at Gladstone's. It's always a great meal and great service and the whole deal. John Rogers down in San Diego. Speaking of SoCal, Mark Curtis, hello from Snowbound Sailboat on the Hard. Are you working on your boat, Mark? Cliff Black, hello, Cliff. And George Pinheiro. There's another famous Portuguese sailing name. That family, the Pinheiro family, just the deans of yachting, dad and the kid, and just fantastic people in Portugal. Gary Roberts, Blake Middleton, and John Trevor, Walker, Alan Quick. There's so many people on there. I'm just going to skip through. Hey, there's Jody Shiels. Hello from under the Sydney Harbor Bridge. So he's out there. If you can Skype me, Jody.
He did. He just did to answer yours. He said to answer your Skype.
Oh, he did? Okay, good. Well, we'll get him on here. Is it Skype that he's coming on?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see if we can get Jody teed up here while we're on the fly. Steve Gruber, Ferdinand Van West.
Tom.
There you are. Do we have visual from you as well?
I can give you a visual, mate.
Vision, as the TV guys say. Can you do it in? Can you do it 16:9 instead of? I've got your title up here. We're going to do this on the fly, Jody.
There's the Harbor Bridge, mate. How's that good?
Oh, man, that's beautiful. Hang on, I'm going to get you on here. We usually do this ahead of time, not during the show, for obvious reasons.
All best laid plans, mate. All best laid plans.
But I appreciate your coming on. Now let me see if I can get you on the air with that vision that you're sending us.
Yeah, I'm all on my phone, so we're going to have to either probably just take that and cop the...
Hey, guess what, Jody?
What's that, mate?
Guess what? Watch this. Live from Sydney, Jody Shiels shooting the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Wow.
This is high tech. I mean, what other show, sort of network or cable TV? We've got you. We got you on the air. Are you getting video back from me?
Yeah, no. I'm just getting your voice. I can see it. Obviously, the what I'm sending you, but
you are. You see me now with the PIP over my shoulder?
Nope.
Okay, hang on. Let me get you that because I want to ask you about some of the slides and videos. We're watching your shaky.
Hang on, I've got you.
You just cut off your video there, Jody.
Right, hang on. Please hold.
Please hold for the next available commentator. Half a world away. There he is. You're back.
Yeah, that's the best I can do. I think that's all right. Oh, I got you now. I got the picture.
You're going to make us all seasick. You got the PIP from me?
Yeah, hang on. I'll stop walking in a minute. I'm just walking down to a really cool little hangout here right underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
What people don't know is one of the things we've managed to figure out how to do is to send video of the show live. So Jody is watching on his. Are you on your phone or your iPad?
He's
I guess
walking.
Your phone, right?
Just on my phone, mate. I'm just actually walking over to the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron for the 9 o'clock briefing.
Nice. Well, the point is this: is that we are able to send the video back to him so he sees what's on the air, whether it's this shot or that shot. And that is one of the more clever things that we've actually achieved here at the Sailing Illustrated TV studios. Jody, can we, because you're going to have to run for what time's your hearing?
9 o'clock, mate. So I've got a little bit of time, but yeah, you're right. Good. I'll have to be fairly quick.
Okay, well, let me hang on with us. Let me run through this next the day in history segment, and then we'll come right back to you. And we want to see you too, not just the bloody bridge.
Hello.
Except
there you are.
You've now gone portrait instead of 16:9. There you go. Perfect. You and the bridge. Okay, I'll be right back to you. Let's do today in history. In 1953, Jody, Julia, do you know what happened on this day in history? In 1953.
Tomato sauce was invented.
What was?
Tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce. Nope.
Pedro, come here.
Who's this? This is a clue. That help?
No.
Does that help? The same guys. You see what that is?
Oh, yeah. DNA.
It's the double helix. And Watson and Crick on this day announced, apparently, by going into a pub and saying, hey, we've just discovered the secret of life. No joke. And then they published it a couple months later. But, of course, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, if you remember your high school and college chemistry. And it was discovered way back in 1869, but its crucial role in determining genetic inheritance wasn't demonstrated until 43. And then in the early 50s, Watson and Crick and a number of others got to the double helix of the matter and figured it out, which, of course, was an astonishing when that was the year I was born, so I wasn't aware of it. But, Julia, you must have been aware of it, weren't you?
I was. I actually knew a guy who said that he had heard a lecture by them and what they were having a problem doing. And he was living in London at the time. And in the middle of the night, he discovered what they were missing in their analysis. And he got on a train and went to wherever their lab was and said, hey, you guys, you got to do this and this and this, and then it'll work. Okay. And it did.
Well, it was obviously quite a discovery this day in 1953. Either they announced it or it was credited that this is the day. Now, we're going to go back down to Sydney straight away because standing by is our roving reporter there nearby, near the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Jody, who do you have with you?
Look who I got with me. Pedro, a foiling sailor.
Oh, he lives.
He lives and breathes. Hello, Peter. Can you get him closer so we can hear him, Peter? Can he hear us, Jody?
Yeah, he should be able to. Yeah.
I'll take that title off, though.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, how are you? Nice to see you.
Can you hear him?
Yeah, g'day, Tom. Julia, good to see you guys.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I can hear you. It's in my ear.
Okay, well, you're listening to us probably 11 or 12 seconds delay. That's what the delay, something like that.
I've just come to pick Jody up in his
12-second delay.
In his limo. So I've brought the boxing kangaroo sitting there in the passenger seat. And we're going to go for a little drive just over to the squadron.
That's how we do it down here in Sydney.
You're going to the squadron now for a briefing in, 40 minutes, half an hour or so?
Yeah, we have there's a briefing on every day with the boats, so they basically yell at us when we do things wrong and tell us where we can and can't be on the racetrack. So it's all pretty full on. As you can imagine, it's a very tight little racetrack we've got to handle. And so far they're doing a pretty good job at managing, getting everyone off it.
Well, Jody, let me put this picture in and ask you a couple questions. I've also got some videos, but as everybody probably knows, they've gone up one team from 6 to 7, although in this shot, which they released, there's no French team pictured in this, what is otherwise a beautiful shot from the training day. And, of course, Denmark in the foreground is new, and Spain has taken over what had been the China team boat. And yesterday, however, Jody, the results, Mark Husted, I think I had a bet with you that the Sir Ben Ainslie, who you can't very well see his boat, but that Ben would do well, as yesterday was the first day of racing, yesterday, Friday, in Sydney. So the SailGP 2020 season is underway. Jody, what happened? It was an astonishing development.
Basically, Ben's been gifted with a pretty handy flight control operator in Parko. Luke Parkinson, he was with the Japan team last year, and also Ian Gooby Jensen's on the wing. So
and Ian Jensen was last year with Nathan Outteridge, and now he's taken that experience to Sir Ben's team.
Yeah, absolutely, and the grinders were from last year as well. So Ben, and he's no slouch on the wheel. So they've got a really good team and they've hit the ground running. But what is probably their biggest asset at the moment is the way that they're tacking and jibing the boat. It's completely different to everyone else. And it's basically, if you watch the way that the boat comes through the tack, they're actually carrying windward heel through the tack and then getting launched out of the tack where everyone else lifts the hull, like their old leeward hull as they roll around the tack. They're a lot higher as it becomes the new windward hull, if that makes sense. And then they sit it down. So the way that the Great British team is doing it, it's just superior. And it's like you can literally see the gains they make in the tack, and then they slingshot off, and they're already doing 4 or 5 knots quicker, and then they just roll everyone. They're just so fast.
Wow. Well, that's interesting insight. And of course, Ben it's his America's Cup team now largely, and they've been in the simulator both for the foiling monohulls, but also leading up to this, the Artemis simulator, which is near them in London, where they do this. At least I think most of it. Is that right?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, 100%. It could even be, Tom. We've had a bit of chit chat over it overnight. It could even be the way that they sail the Big Bird, the big bus, in the America's Cup boat, and maybe they've come here and tried it on the AC, and it obviously works. Either that, or they buggered up a tack one day during practice, and looked at the data and said, "Geez, that was fast," and they're going to keep running with it. But either way, I spoke to Nathan about it and Tom at Slings about it, and they're all in agreement. Whatever they're doing is definitely fast, and the other teams have to try and emulate. Otherwise, they're just going to get steamrolled. He can come from last. He was second last on the first downhill yesterday, and I think it was the last race, and end up coming through and winning it.
So I'm not sure we've said this, but Sir Ben won all 3 races. Did I say that?
Yes.
Today. So that was pretty amazing. And let me play this video, and just to give everybody a sense of what the boats are looking like in the breeze. And this, I want to come back to how to watch this thing, but have a look at this video.
A superb sight. This is world-class sailing. So close together. Look at this, the Australians up into second place, and then look at the speed of the Spaniards. Oh my God!
Trimming, high mode. Go boys, speed. Full focus.
Whoa, here's the action.
Almost a collision there. This is super fast sailing.
Head right. Got it. Nice. Inverter. Turning up. It's hectic, eh?
Oh, this is getting spicy. Two alpha males on the water.
Alpha male.
Put the herd on him early. He sets up. He's brought down. He turns. 2, 1. Lock. Turning. Right.
The story here, a rocketing start from Great Britain. Slingsby has some questions to answer.
It just feels like the margin for error is like 0. Welcome to SailGP.
Okay, so that's obviously from the practice sailing. Jody, we have Jody Shiels with us with Peter Stevenson, Peter Foiling Sailor, that back there behind us. Welcome again to both of you. Tell us, this was obviously from practice racing, or was that from the actual racing, that video we just saw?
No, I think that was from the actual video. They turned them over pretty quick, and what is very noticeable, Tom, from this season already, we're only have 1 day of actual racing, is that extra boat on the racetrack has made a huge difference as far as, making everything more condensed. The level of the sailing has risen. Everyone, I think they said there, there's no room for error. And that's exactly right. That you see the teams that fall off their foils in one jibe or one tack, and they just get punished. You just can't do it. You've got to be foiling everywhere around the track, or otherwise you just get backdoored. It's really like, we got the best seat in the house. I'm actually happy I'm not sitting in a little hut in London, to be honest. We're on Pete's boat, and it's we're literally 3 meters off the racetrack, and the boats are just so close. It's ridiculous how close they're getting, and it's pretty gnarly. It's fun.
Okay, well let's go through the standings. I pulled the charts off the website because they didn't give a composite like you would normally at a regatta, first race, second race, third race, so you can see how everybody finished. But obviously Ben has scored 3 bullets, as we've been discussing. And very impressive. I mean, even though the racing's close, you got to say that for him to come into this thing for the first time and right out of the blocks, have 3 bullets is pretty impressive, right?
It's massive, mate. And the starts there. You'll watch the last start. They're trying to bully him a bit and trying to sandwich him and just trying to put him under pressure. But the fact that he's just got so much boat speed in and out of the corners, I can't stress it enough how important it is. Their straight line speed, the boats are pretty much the same. There's not too much difference in them. But it's the corners where he's just coming out and just blowing them off the water. His tacks are incredible.
Okay, so let's look at the results, because it was also interesting to me, Jody, that some teams were up and down, notably the Spanish, and you can tell us about the points that the jury deducted from them in a moment. But in race 1, which of course Ben won, then Tom Slingsby and the Australian team were second, Nathan Outteridge, last year's first and second place teams. Rome Kirby showed a little bit better in the first race. Spain, who has Phil Robertson driving until their Olympic guys get in the boat after Tokyo, because that's going to be an Olympic-based team, one hears. Phil Robertson, of course, who was driving last year, skippering the China team. So he's got experience, and no surprise that they had a pretty good day. Billy Basson and the French have been struggling, and the brand-new Danish team with Nikolai Sehested struggling, and especially in that first race. And then in the second race, Ben again won. Phil Robertson moves up to second. Tom and Nathan drop down to third and fourth. The Danes get up to fifth. Rome drops, and Billy Besson still down near the bottom for France. And then in the third race, Ben again with a bullet. Phil Robertson with another second place. So he's actually the Spanish, Phil Robertson, DBA Spain, doing business as Spain, had 3 pretty good races until these penalties that Jody's going to tell you about. Japan, Nathan third. Rome again back in the middle of the pack. Tom slipped to fifth. And the Danes and the French again down at the bottom. So the overall points, as we go into today, the second, Saturday down in Sydney, the second and final day, Ben Ainslie leading on 30 points, looks not unassailable. Do Does it still go to Jody to match racing for the final of the top 2 teams?
Yeah. So we got 2 fleet races today, and then the 2 top ranked teams will go into a match race for the chocolates this afternoon. It's all fairly late here in Oz. It's a 4:30 start. So it's a long day. We're going to be hanging around waiting for it. But when you were explaining the teams were struggling there, it's interesting, Tom. No one's really struggling as such. It's literally like the USA were leading one race. They had a leg and a half to go, and he buggered up a jibe. We called it the pothole. He literally went down the mine hole, went right through to the front beam, stopped, filled the boat up with water, and just got swallowed because there was about 4 boats behind him within about 3 boat lengths of each other. And that's how intense the racing is. So that one little mistake just puts him into the back door. And then, we've also got Shark Island in the middle of the racetrack. I don't know if you've seen the racing yet, but yesterday's course direction, we could the boats could choose to go either side of Shark Island, and it was really funny to watch. We were on the boat, obviously, and the people on Shark Island were running from one side of Shark Island. There was just so much action, There was boats I think it was Tommy in one race. No, it was Nathan. Sorry, in one race, he was last, all but last, so he decided to go to the southern side of Shark Island. Picked up a nice little breeze and was second around the top mark. And I'm talking, the rest of the boats are like a boat length behind. So, it's close as. It's no one's getting flogged. That's a misconception. It's just literally one tiny mistake. If you're running at 95%, it's not good enough. And that's pretty tough. That's when when they're at the intensity that they are and the speeds that they're doing. That one little mistake can make go from first to seventh. Remember the Spaniard team too's got the new wing. So that's really fast, that wing. It's the new.
So is that the new multi-stage modular wing?
Yeah.
And only Denmark has that, or only Spain has it?
Denmark and Spain are both running it.
Cool. Okay, well, Julie is checking for a lot of questions and comments. In fact, one here I see from our good friend Kevin Brown is saying, looks like Jody is live from Kirribilli.
That's exactly where we are. We're just off
Jeffrey Street, Kirribilli.
Yeah, just off the ferry wharf here. I just was walking towards the squatty, and I thought I'm going to find a nice little spot to show everyone how ugly this harbour is.
Gorgeous. Great. There's the Opera House, of course.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick little pan around from these people here. How good would it be to own one of these? They're the water houses. They're the racehorse people. So that's unfortunately what they've got to wake up to every morning.
Wow.
But they're probably not happy. They're probably not sitting on the front of a boat watching SailGP.
So speaking of that, tell us now about the app and your commentary, because you're not doing the TV commentary like you did so beautifully last year with Shirley Robertson. And as I don't know if you heard, we may not have been hooked up. Richard Gladwell commented, he said in a text to me literally just before we went to air, he said, if you buy the SailGP app, in one of the territories for which TV rights have been sold, you can't see the video replay on the app until 48 hours after the racing. Now, you're doing commentary out on Peter Stevenson's boat, I gather, and you're right in amongst the racing. So rather than being in a sound studio back in London, where you were last year doing the television commentary and watching the vision on, as the TV guys call it, on screens, you're actually out there on the water among the racing and commentating to the app. Correct?
Well, yeah. So, we got eased out of the broadcast spot. They wanted to go in different directions, which I totally understand. And then I got contacted from Russell after we did the Moth Worlds in Perth, and he really liked what myself and Mark Ablett did there for the Moths, and he wanted us to do something similar for SailGP. So we're dead set winging it. We've got no audio, we've got no visual, we've got no backup. We're just literally standing on the front of Pete's boat with a couple of microphones that are getting sent back to London, and that audio will be getting mixed onto the app, I believe, in some sort of a highlights package. Also, the Inspire program, which is an unbelievable program that Tommy Herbert Evans has put, he's in charge of that for kids. We're commentating the Inspire kids on the WAS and the RS14 Cats. That's supposed to be going live to the app, but there's some stuff going on there. The audio's.
Well, it's the first regatta, and I did listen to the video. Mark Husted or someone, one of our foes, he sent me, I think it was Mark, sent me that video, and we could hear you commentating on the Inspire program. And Tom Herbert Evans, who runs that program for SailGP, has promised to come on the show, maybe here in San Francisco when he gets here for the second event, and give us a full rundown, because I hear it's great. I hear that what the RS company is
fantastic, mate. You got kids from all over the place come in here and they get to hang out for a week. And yesterday we could hear the broadcast ops on my the Inspire hat that Pete's got on his head. The broadcast ops, you could hear the radio chat come on and said they want all the F50s off the racetrack because the Inspire kids, it's their turn to shine. I mean, all the rescue boats, all the chase boats, everyone had to clear the air, or clear the space. And the little kids on the RS14s and the WASPs, they just got front and centre in front of Shark Island and put on a show. And we could hear the people on Shark Island cheering for them. And, when there were stacks, they were whistling and carrying on. And, they got their names on the boats. And, they're dead set treated like rock stars, mate. And it's just such an awesome, awesome program that they've got running. And if we can, the Inspire name is perfect. If we can inspire a kid to take up sailing full time and get out of their lounge room and off the iPads, we've won. We've done what we've needed to do, mate, and it's a great program.
Stop couch surfing and start foiling.
100%. I mean, the RS14 Cats aren't foiling, but that's the entry level. They got picked by we got nominated by their club, and then there was a panel of 6 people that picked them, and they come in. Some kids have hardly ever sailed. They're just learning, but, they get out there and they're on trapeze and they're putting spinnakers up and down because they've had a week's worth of intensive training. And I have not seen a kid not have a smile on his face for the last 3 days. Cool. Or hers. It's a 50-50 mix of boys and girls, so it's awesome. You
guys have to dash in a few minutes or a couple of minutes. So
we do indeed, yep.
Let me just quickly go through. Mark Husted is saying Rib Walker is doing the commentary, and Jody and Mark are on the Inspire Racing feed only on the SailGP Facebook. So apparently it's on Facebook, not on the app. So we'll watch you this afternoon on Facebook. Leandro Spina, hello, Leandro, to you. Blake Middleton, who you know, says, damn cool to see both Jody and Pedro live from the Harbor Bridge. So you're getting high marks for this.
You can show him his ride if you want it.
Yeah, come and sit. We're on the way. We'll walk to the car because we are running late. But
okay.
This guy, this Pedro foiling sailor, I think he's the 3rd richest person in Sydney, mate.
Well, it's nice to know that we've got some foesy who are well-heeled. He can ask him to join us via Patreon. Check
out his Saturday ride.
Look at that.
I don't know.
British Racing Green, no less.
I'll skip your ruse. I'm too fat to fit in here, I think. Hey?
That is green, isn't it?
First for your show. It's not Sailing Illustrated anymore. It's Hot Rod Illustrated. There you go.
Okay.
Right, guys. We're going to leg it, so
we'll let you go.
Download the app and at least watch it, and hopefully Russell will like it enough to send me off to a look out. He's been a hoon now.
Oh, come on. Keep the camera going while you're in the car for a minute.
Right.
Take us over to the squadron.
We're going to go for a ride in the squaddy. Okay, this will be fun. Oh, no, you're going to have to turn that off, Pete. I know it's... I don't know. How do I get in the bloody thing? Do I jump over the...
Julia, this has got to be the craziest live remote we've ever done.
And real.
I don't think I've got to turn mine off now.
All right, so this is against every single law in Australia, but we're going to run with it.
Well, Dick Anderson's saying that, is that a real or a replica car?
It's a DRB replica. A DRB, it's a mock. It's a mock,
okay. Anderson's also saying that he's got friends who live in those units.
This is how I got a ride here. The kangaroo. Get there.
Yeah, Mark. He'll blow out of the car.
No, he'll be right. Skip your is pretty tough. So we're just now doing the bit of a lap under the Harbour Bridge. Becky, this is a first for your show, Tom.
It is. Although
we Mardi Gras here this weekend too, so I'll fit in there. Pedro's gonna, once he's finished driving, he's gonna get his ILCA on and he's gonna go and join in the parade.
Well, you know, they've canceled Mardi Gras in a lot of other places. The last 2 days of Carnival in where, Milano, I guess it was.
Venice.
Was it Venice?
I'm not sure we're going to see it. No, there's the Luna Park entrance. Then we're coming over towards North Sydney and then towards the Squatty. So
beautiful day. The press release started saying the worst 2 words: champagne sailing condition, or 3 words. Champagne sailing conditions prevailed on the first day. I mean, excuse me. But I guess it was. It really was. And we're going to look at the videos now. We'll let you guys go. I don't want you to get arrested.
All right, guys. Thanks, eh?
Okay. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. Thank you. See you. Okay. Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it, Julia?
It was. You were getting seasick.
That was fun. Okay. Thanks, guys. So as you heard, the leaderboard is after day 1, and today's the second day, 2 more fleet races, and then the top 2 teams will go into a match race. And first place by a lot, by 7 points, is, of course, Sir Ben Ainsley after his 3 bullets yesterday. Second place, of course, actually tied for second, and the tie break went, at least for the purposes of this graphic, to Nathan there on number 2 and Tommy Slingsby in third, and the rest, Rome Kirby in fourth and Phil Robertson in fifth, the Danes, Shehested in sixth, and Billy Besson in the French team in seventh. This was on the front page before I knew I was going to get these guys on the air today with us, and this was on the front page of Sailing Anarchy, courtesy of Brian Hancock, who's also a Fozy. He's been on here on the show. And he said a steady 15 to 20 knots of southerly made for some really tight racing, while much of the attention going into the event was around the brewing rivalry between Ainsley and Slingsby. The most tense moment of the day involves Spain and France. Phil Robertson and his Spanish team were heading toward a race boundary where they lost their rights to France and eventually clipped the French yacht, forcing the French to retire from the 2 final races.
My goodness.
With damage. The SailGP jury determined the Spanish team inflicted serious damage to the French boat and docked them a total of 9 points. 5 points from the first race and an additional 2 points for each of the next 2 races, and that France was forced to miss. A little bit of international warfare to kick off the series. That, again, Brian Hancock writing on the front page of Sailing Anarchy today. So where do we go from here? Well, you know that they're going to wrap up the regatta today in Sydney. Then they come to San Francisco May 2 and 3. And now we understand that there are only 5 events. There will not be 6 events this year. There was at least discussion of a 6th event, either back in Marseille or in Spain. But I understand now, and this is indeed what they say, they don't say it in so few words, but on their website, the 2020 final apparently will be the Rockwool Copenhagen Regatta, Rockwool being the sponsor of the Danish team, and they're also sponsoring the event, which is being run by a Fozy of ours, Mads Earhart, one of the sons of the late, great Neil Earhart. Niels, N-I-E-L-S, Niels Earhart, who was for a long time the Dean of Yachting in Denmark and just a peach of a cool guy. I wanted to ask Jody if he knows what's happened with the selection in the Australian NACRA 17, because there's 2 teams that are very close, and apparently it's subjective selection. And I wanted to know whether brother and sister Nathan and Hayley Outteridge, who are sailing, of course, in SailGP, whether they have been selected yet. They were supposed to here, I thought, in the last couple of days. Or whether there's the other Australian team whose names escape me, but they're also...
What class is that in?
NACRA 17. And I tried to find... before we went to air, but the other team, Lisa Skipper, is also competing in SailGP on one of the boats. I guess on Tommy Slingsby's boat, maybe. So that's what we know, and I wanted to ask Jody that, but we didn't have him. We had to get to that briefing over at the squadron, the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. Very nice clubhouse.
It is.
It is. That's one of your favorites, right?
Well, I do like it, but I'm more of a Royal Prince Alfred and Cruising Club fan.
Well, thank you, Rob Fry. You're reminding us that the gentleman's name is Waterhouse. And Jeff Waller, who's watching, who does World on Water television production that goes to clubs not only in Australia and New Zealand, but now around the world. And we're going to work something out here in the U.S., aren't we, Jeff? No decision made on the Aussie NACRAs yet. And there was a headline that came through, guys, that said that there was actually a lawsuit or some kind of a complaint, not a lawsuit necessarily, but a protest being filed by the brother and sister Outteridge against presumably Sailing Australia or whatever they're called now. It used to be the Australian Yachting Federation. Who else is here, Julia? What other comments?
Oh, there are lots of comments, and a little bit from early on. John Emmett said at Sandringham, Paige Railey got selected.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, John. Thank you, and I'm going to run your video as well.
Gerard Seeliger asked any news on the celebration of Olympics, the virus, revenue expansions of world sailing, and cost-cutting initiatives.
Let's stay on SailGP for a minute, and then we'll come back to all these other comments. Jay Winnick is saying SailGP was a joke last year. The fact that Sir Ben could come in and destroy the competition in 3 consecutive races show that it's a second-tier event. That's hard. But, you know, Jay, I didn't expect Jody to say that in so few words, but one suspects you are right. And I was pretty surprised. I thought Ben might run second, or at least be in the hunt with the other 2 guys that were first and second last year. That's Tommy and Nathan. But to come in and dominate and win 3 in a row, I think it shows you what a fully professional, geared up America's Cup team can do, probably to most any event. And it just shows, as you say, Jay Winnick, how high level these America's Cup teams are. They're doing this full time, all day, every day, whereas these SailGP teams are doing moths and they're doing other sailing. They're not just out racing in this level of competition. Bill Canfield, that was friggin' exciting. I guess you're talking about the SailGP video, but I thought that video was a little back. Here we go again, trying to make it look like it was crash and burn NASCAR instead of yacht racing or sailing, but maybe we'll see if that works.
Rob Fry says the app wouldn't work for me on Shark, even on 4G.
On Shark Island, meaning?
I guess so.
Rob Fry. So Rob Fry must be there. Well, Rob Fry would be there because his son, Leonard Takahashi, who's on here, yes, we saw him on, is sailing, of course. He's been promoted. He's now either the wing trimmer or the flight. I think he's the flight controller.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, for Team Japan. So congrats to you, Rob, and to Leonard. Let us know, Rob, in the comments. I think that is correct, isn't it? Fabian Haraldson replying to Jay Winnick is saying, or is it simply that B.A., Sir Ben, is one hell of a sailor? Well, we know that. We knew that all along, and I think that's a fair comment as well. What else, Julia?
Mark Houston said the bet isn't complete yet, Tom. There's another day of racing.
Well, okay. My bet, I don't remember what the bet was for sure, Mark, but it'll be good to see you here and get together, and regardless of who wins. But I think the bet was that Ben would, my bet with you was that Ben would do better than you thought he would do. And you're saying Phil Robertson gave Ben a good run for his money. Yes, he did. Okay, anything else? Yeah, Mark Curtis is saying it was labeled on YouTube as a practice day video. Either way, exciting. Yeah, it was confusing for me. And they normally send out a quick 1-minute recap of the day's racing, and maybe it was a combination to get exciting video. Maybe it was a combo of both practice race and then first day racing, because they added that comment, and you notice that Sir Ben Ainslie showed his mettle, his strength, and giving Tom Slingsby something to answer to. So that voicing or that comment obviously came after yesterday's racing. New rigs. Michael Gaber wants to know, as you heard Jody say, apparently the Danish boat has a new wing, and it's the modular wing, and it has better controls for shaping, for the articulating sections and flaps on the back edge. And So to the Spanish. The Spanish boat is the old, let me see if I got this right. Yeah, the Spanish boat is the old China boat, China team boat, and the Danish boat is the newly built 7th boat. What else, Julia?
We heard that there's no decision on the Aussie Nacras.
Yeah, I think we got
Jason
that.
Waterhouse is flight controller on the Aussie GP boat.
Oh, and Rob Fry is saying that GBR also, yeah, well, I guess won the 3 practice races. So maybe that was a practice race video. Maybe all that footage was some. That's what I thought. But British Racing Green, Blake Middleton says, speaking of the car that they drove off in, is my all-time favorite color. Rob Fry flight controller. So yeah, that flight controller is Leo. Leo is flight controller.
Leo, rather, yeah.
Yeah, Leonard. Well, Leonard, aka Leo, is the flight controller on Team Japan with Nathan Outteridge.
That's good.
Okay, anything else on all of that? Any other comments? There was a comment on Watson and Crick from.
Yes.
Do you have that?
I did.
I saw it. Let me go back and grab that, and then we'll move forward. Stephanie Helms is saying Crick and Watson would never have never got there without. Yeah, Rosalind Franklin's X-ray crystallography image of the DNA molecule they saw in January and other bits of her research. She had passed away before the Nobel was awarded. Yeah, I saw reference to her. Thank you, Stephanie, for that. I saw reference to her in the Wikipedia or whatever I was looking at this morning. Okay, Julia, shall we move forward?
Yes.
Okay. This is the segment on the coronavirus.
Oh. Oh.
Well, now, this is serious. In the U.S., the sales of, and this is how stupid some Americans are, hopefully not too many, but the sales are going down because this wasn't fake news. I saw it on several. I saw it on Crown 4 early this morning. I saw it on CNN. I saw it on Fox. Apparently, the Fox Business Network. Apparently, the sales of Corona beer are going down because people think it's somehow related that you can get the coronavirus. I'm kid you not. So I had to put that in here as the opening shot. Now, this is obviously a serious matter. Italy continues to be the hardest hit country in Europe. They have stopped all sporting events north of Rome. All of them. There are ongoing discussions with the health ministry in Italy about whether or not they can run that regatta in Cagliari in just a little over a month's time. It's almost 2 months. It's the end of April. No, it's the beginning of April. Yes, the beginning of April, because then the regatta in Portsmouth is the beginning of June. That's right. So this is a serious matter. There are now some 60 countries that have reported cases. They have a case here in California. Somebody here in the Bay Area, they've been shipped off now to the UC Davis Hospital, where they've got it's a good teaching hospital and a great quarantine facility for infectious diseases and otherwise. But the person is in very serious condition, and they don't know how this person became infected. This is, the other people came off the cruise ship or had been in infected countries, but right, Julie, do I have that right?
Yes.
So that's a bit of a worry. And, we don't want to overreact. None of us do. None of us does. Anderson's watching, and my mother, I have to be sure our grammar is correct.
That's correct.
None of us does. You all do. I do. None of us want to overreact. But it's a serious situation. They have shut down, they've stopped in Switzerland. The biggest car show in the world, the Geneva Car Show, is canceled. Geneva has stopped any gatherings larger than 1,000 people. The soccer stadiums in Europe are empty. The baseball stadiums in Japan are empty. All the schools have been closed in Japan. And, on and on and on. So I don't know what's really going to happen. None of us do. None of us does. None of us do. And I talked with Marcus Schwentner this morning, and Genoa is mid-April, and the next of these World Cup regattas, that World Sailing is running now, but is going to shut down because there just no one shows up now, and they're so expensive to run. That is in mid-April.
End of April, he says.
Well, no, the General Regatta is mid. The America's Cup is the end of April. And the mid-April General Regatta, which is a qualifying regatta for a number of countries as well, are part of the qualification system. I don't see how they're going to run that. Genoa's in the north part of Italy, which is where most of the action has been so far. There continue to be discussions about whether the Olympics will go on or be postponed or be moved, and I don't see how you move it. As I said in that article the other day, which is, by the way, has gotten picked up all over the place, the article on SailingIllustrated.com. And if you haven't read it, go over to our main website. A lot of people said, well, that makes sense. And what, of course, again, what I said is do not stop these Olympians who are now getting selected, now getting qualified, like Leonard Takahashi. He should have his day in the sun,
yes, in
the Olympic sun. And if that means that they run the Sailing Olympics in Melbourne or Long Beach or Weymouth or tell me where, our sport of all the sports, as Marcus Fentner said to me on the phone this morning, it's a sport that, you don't have big crowds in the stands, and the sailors are out, they're out and by themselves and largely, and they can self-quarantine when they're on land and yada, yada. So our sport at least ought to be able to do something. And so should probably most of the other sports. If a vaccination comes out, I don't think athletes are going to get it anytime soon. They're going to give it to the first responders, to the medical workers, to government officials, to the bloody Pope. I mean, the poor Pope is sick, and hopefully he doesn't have coronavirus. And as Clark Chapin says, as he often says, this is no time to panic. There will be plenty of time to panic later. Now, today, the markets, I'd stopped looking at the markets because it's so depressing, but they were down another 600 to 800 to 900 points when I turned the TV off here. I watched the news while we're putting the show together in the morning. The Fed, our Federal Reserve Board, today announced that they're going to do a big injection of liquidity into the markets, thinking that would somehow stave off the fear and the panic and whatever else. Well, it didn't. As soon as they announced that, the market went down. It was starting to climb back up, and it went down another 300 some odd points because these markets are not stupid. They're saying, well, if the Fed's doing that, they must know there's a problem. And all this, people think that Trump and his press conference, President Trump's press conference, was a kind of gilding the lily or icing the cake, or what would you say, Julia?
Optimistic.
It was overly optimistic. Okay, I don't know what you all think, but
well, nobody knows yet. Let's just say that. I mean, it could go one of several ways, and nobody knows for sure what's going to happen.
So Julie and I have decided, haven't we?
Yep.
We're staying away just because we can. I mean, we're in the office now, which is in the townhouse here that Julie owns in the marina. So we can come down here to the office, and if both of us get sick, well, we breathe on each other, and hopefully neither of us will get seriously sick or worse. But we don't have to go to the yacht club and have a drink at the bar. We don't have to go to the big gala next Tuesday night for the fundraising gala.
Staying away from crowds is the best.
Staying away from crowds, but it's more than that. I talked to a doctor, an infectious specialist, who this morning. He'd asked me not to use his name, at some length. And I said, what's the latest? And also I'm hearing, and I'll tell you in a moment, but I'm also hearing from a Fozy who asked me also not to name him, but he is, you probably know who I'm talking about, but I won't name it. He is on the phone call that the senior serious people in Washington get with CDC, our Center for Disease Control here in the U.S., and also with the WHO, World Health Organization. Who? And they're both the doctor and these guys are saying the same thing. They're saying, look, when you cough into your elbow, don't touch your face with your hands or anyone else's hands. Wash your hands regularly, and don't just go in there and rinse them off in the cold water. You got to go and rinse with hot water and plenty of soap, and ideally even antibacterial soap doesn't really do anything because it's a virus.
But 20 seconds is a long time.
but doing it for singing happy birthday twice is what they're all saying. You got to really go and wash like you're going, like, you know, in the MASH. You remember these guys you'd do a whole episode. They're sitting there washing their hands before they'd go into surgery in the old television show MASH. But seriously, you got to wash. And they're all telling me, the doctor said, look, just stay 6 feet away from anybody. And if somebody's caught, because if the stuff is not, what's the word?
Airborne.
It's not, well, it is airborne. It's not, doesn't go very tiny little aerosol, you know, where it goes through masks and it goes through stuff at kind of the molecular level. It apparently has got to be attached to your sputum, your phlegm, what you're coughing out, the bigger droplets that you're coughing out. So if you're staying away from people's coughs, and if somebody starts coughing, beat cheeks, as my sister would say, for the, you know, beat a retreat, get the hell out of there. And if you're in a plane and somebody's coughing next to you, you got a problem if they're a carrier. And if they're not, if they're up in the front of the plane, you probably have no problem. So the bigger question, so, you know, you don't go hug and kiss everybody in the bar when you walk into the St. Francis Yacht Club. You say hi, everybody, and you give them the old elbow to elbow, or you just say, do a bow, which is, you know, what people were doing last night at the club I went to for the Thursday night show. Yeah. They were bowing and not shaking hands, and even though that's a pretty, you know, crusty, not necessarily scared group. Yeah. You were saying?
No.
And the other thing is that, and the concerning thing is the flu. Everybody says, oh, you get the flu, and Peter Houston and others are criticizing me for talking about this, but everyone's interested and concerned. And it especially as it's impacting sailing. The bigger picture we'll leave to the networks, and you all are smart people and can watch it in your own countries and your own news sources. But the bigger concern is, apparently, if you get the virus, you may not even know you have it. If you've got a good immune system, if you're young, if you don't have cardiopulmonary problems, you might not even know you've got it. But you're apparently communicable. So you can spread it around to other people. And if you get it and then you're cured, I mean, you know, if you go through the phase and whatever it is and you get over it, apparently you're still carrying it and can still infect people, even though you're not presenting, you're not exhibiting symptoms. And I've heard that now today from, again, this Fozy who's on the CDC call every morning and then calls me or texts me. I've heard it from this doctor friend of mine in New York, and I've also heard it from a nurse at Kaiser, who some of you will know. And that, you know, who knows? Sailing, you got to be careful, and we'll see how it goes in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But U.S. World Sailing is meeting as we speak in London. I think they're meeting. I couldn't get confirmation whether they were meeting by conference call or in person. But they've got to decide on Genoa. And the prudent action seems to be that's only in a month.
John Emmett says it's probably coming next week.
What's coming next week?
The decision.
Yeah, I think it's coming this weekend and announced. I think you're right, Julia. John's right, but I think it's going to get announced next week. I think it's coming as we speak. And then we'll see what the Italian, because again, it's not really up to the challenger of record and the defender. It's up to the Italian government to say, well, we're going to let people into the country or we're not. And that was the problem for these regattas down, as we said in previous shows, the problems down in Australia, in Melbourne, at Sandringham, Royal Sandringham, and in Geelong, at Royal Geelong Yacht Club, that the Chinese sailors couldn't get in, not because the organizers said you can't come, it's because the Australian immigration officials said...
Nobody.
Well, they said no Chinese.
I mean, nobody.
So now what happens if an America's Cup team, take the New York Yacht Club team and the Kiwi team, and the Kiwi boat has been shipped, but I think they can get it off, from what I hear, they can get it off the boat in Singapore, put it on another ship, and send it back to New Zealand if the regatta gets called off. New York doesn't ship, American Magic doesn't ship their boat now for a couple more weeks, so they've got a little time. If the thing gets called off, obviously they won't ship their boat. And I saw an interview, by the way, with Terry Hutchinson today, who says they are going to be in New Zealand sooner than any other challenger, any of the other two challengers.
Good idea.
They're getting right down there and getting situated. They've also got a case of this now in New Zealand. I saw on the news this morning. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem. Let's say that that New York ships their boat because they're required to, and the Italians don't stop people from coming in. They get over there, and then there's a problem. And then what if the U.S. government, what if Trump really knuckles down here and says, we're not letting anybody in from Italy who's been in Italy, or we'll let you in if you're an American citizen, but you're going to have to go into quarantine or self-quarantine. It's going to knock New York Yacht Club out of the box for practicing, for training. So you can understand why there's a little concern there. What about a non-American who's got a visa? What about Dean Barker, who's the helm of that boat? And they say, well, you're not an American. Go back to New Zealand. So, there's a whole lot of issues that most of us probably don't think about. I see Michele Tagnazzi is on. Thanks for your notes this morning, Michele. But the FIV, the Federazione Italiana di Vela, the National Sailing Federation, first canceled all their training events and championship events. Now they say they're going ahead with them. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michele Tagnazzi, but you would know. And my mother is saying I should have a good immune system, raised in the sticks on wholesome natural foods, sticks meaning in the country. Well, Mom, I remember some of the Oreo cookies. And
That's good, wholesome food.
Man, we ate a lot of sugar as kids.
Sure.
Okay, let's get on with this. That's a good plan. If you sing the happy birthday song twice, you owe mayo royalties to the copyright holder. Oh, Mom, come on. Not if you're not doing it on the air. Yankee
I think that
Doodle.
was sold, wasn't it? Didn't that
know.
Get kiboshed?
I have no idea.
Years ago.
Okay, I don't know if there's any other pressing comments. Jay Hanfield is saying, no, Tom, no country will agree to take hundreds of athletes in support to run one sports event. I think you're right.
As always, I encourage everybody to go through the comments because they're worthwhile on all sides, and there's just not time to acknowledge all of them on air.
Exactly. One does, we do. Exactly. Thank you. Fabian Haraldson saying, I'm working for a Swedish powertrain manufacturer, and all traveling has been restricted until further notice due to COVID-19. Okay, I've got lots of other notes, but as Julia says, we're going to move on, have a look, and see what's going on over the weekend, and we'll address this again, of course, on Tuesday. In the meantime, we don't know really what's happening with Colliery and then that follow-on event in the America's Cup World Series in Portsmouth. Coming up, the Olympics, we don't know what's going to happen with that, the 24th of July through the 9th of August, but it's looking, and each day you're starting to hear more and more, well, how are we going to do this as the situation gets worse in certain. I mean, what if they try to hold the Olympics? Are they not going to let the Iranians and the Italians and the Japanese or the Chinese rather come to? That seems hardly. It seems hardly fair. You're gonna I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do this. Andrew Dolly DeVola says SailGo yesterday was amazing. Yeah, SailGP yesterday was amazing in Sydney. Yeah, let's get back to sailing. With one last comment on this whole thing. You know who this is, Julia? He's been on the show at least, I think, twice, maybe three times. Twice, anyway. That is our Fozy.
Oh, Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre Kiekens up in Montreal. He's Belgian by birth, living in Canada. And he has written a really good, sensible article. Sent it to me. It ran on the front page of Sailing Anarchy, so I haven't run it yet, but I will, with a link to the Sailing Anarchy story that he penned. And it's a long story. And then he added some stuff on about what the implications are. You got your kill switch there. But Julia, do that again. She just demonstrated the right. She coughed into her.
I just didn't have an open hand.
And she's got a kill switch now over there on her mic, what we call a cough switch in the business. There she coughed and pushed her. Do that again. Cough, and push the button. There it is. Yeah, you can't hear it except on my mic. In any event, JPK has written this article. I commend it to you. It's on the front page of Sailing Anarchy. He posted yesterday, so it's down a few on their blog. But read the whole thing. A couple of sailing doctors, have written to JPK, and Jean-Pierre has forwarded me their emails. And the doctors were very impressed by this common sense, practical, thoughtful observations and advice that Jean-Pierre gave relative to the coronavirus and the impact on our sport, how you can protect yourself and your kids, especially because he's a specialist and expert on youth sailing and runs quite a nice Facebook page in that respect. Dick Anderson, let's leave the virus to Mr. Pence, who will have it sorted in no time. Dick, who is not a fan of the Republican administration. SailGP, we've talked about. Let's talk about a Bravo Zulu to the other American team that has just qualified. This is Paige Railey, by virtue of not a very strong performance. She was down in the teens, but she beat her two fellow Americans who were in the hunt for the laser radial position in Tokyo. Congrats to Paige Railey on qualifying now in that slot. Congrats also to Marit Bouwmeester, who just was way, way ahead and then had a bad race, had a 29th, and had the late in the game and almost took her out of contention after she was leading by heaps and had a string of first places, in fact, in that laser radial worlds, which has been going on down there at Sandringham, Royal Sandringham Yacht Club, south of Melbourne. Congrats to her. And here is a nice interview. I'm going to run the whole thing. It's 3 minutes long. So turn up the volume if you need to go take a pee or get a coffee. But our Fozy John Emmett
it's the last day
did
of
a really
the
nice interview.
Laser Radial Worlds, and probably no surprise for many people, I have Marit here. She's the Laser Radial World Champion, fabulous week, and one of the most successful female sailors of all time. She's also feeling a bit cold, so we're going to keep it quick. How many times have you won the Worlds, Marit?
This is my 4th time.
And it was some crazy scores this week. Can you just tell us a little bit about the conditions? Because you made it look easy, but I'm sure it wasn't.
No. Well, the week was very good for me, but yesterday I had a high score because of the massive 40-degree wind shift, and that hurted me a little bit. And this morning,
I think everyone apart from Lena had a high score, as far as I could see.
Yeah. Well, the Norwegian girl, she had an amazing day yesterday, but today was very challenging as well. I felt a bit bad because all my teammates left me behind. I was very proud from the back seeing them 1, 2, and 3, but then I was like, hey, wait for me. But no, it's...
You have some young girls pushing along behind you, that's for sure.
Yeah, with the 4 Dutch girls being top 10, it's just amazing. And
what's the name of your Dutch team? It's the...
Team Turbo.
Team Turbo.
Yeah. It's an inside joke, but yeah, I'm very proud of them. I mean, Midnight's the first one, and being top 10 is amazing. And Maxime being second, and then Daphne going through so many private stuff, but still becoming top 10 here. I'm just very proud of them all.
Because I think you and Maxime were 1-2 at Europeans a little while back. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we're doing like a Dorian and Kieran.
Oh, crikey. I'm watching that with great interest. I want to see what's going on in Sorrento, that's for sure. Are you following that?
Yeah, I think everybody in Holland is, and it's just an amazing situation where you have so strong people, 2 strong people in the nation, and I mean they both deserve it, and we'll see. If they have any win like today we had, then it will be a challenging day for them as well.
I mean, I think it's just a shame in sailing that they both can't go to the games, but that's the nature of our sport. And looking forward, very best of luck for Tokyo. If you get gold there, you'll be in the medal tables as possibly one of the most successful female athletes of all time. What's your thoughts about your final preparation? Not long now.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the moment. I mean, it's been an amazing week. Like having my brother as a coach, and then my sister got her first child this week. It's just been
fantastic.
Yeah, it's just been amazing. It's amazing a time for the Bouwmeester family. So yeah.
Oh, I'm very happy for you. I can see you looking really cold, Marit, but very best of luck for Tokyo, and I'm sure we'll speak again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, nicely done by John Emmett. Here's the final results. He's actually put that on. Thank you, John, on the end of his video, and you can see Marit with that 29th in race 10. But came within 2 points of losing to her fellow countrywoman Maxine Jonker, who was only on 44 points, and the Norwegian Line Flem-Host. But the 3 of them were tough. But look at also 3 from the Netherlands, Marit, Maxime, and Daphne van der Vaart.
There are 4 Nederlanders.
Oh, there's a 4th one. You're right. There's Mitte Ackerman. Mirtha. how do you pronounce that? Murtha. Well, anyway, you can see how strong the Dutch are, and thank you, Julia, for pointing that out.
John Emmett did.
Oh, John Emmett did. Well, John, that was a nice video. Thanks, John. A couple of you made comments, snarky comments about John's
microphone cover.
Yeah, one of you called it a windsock, and it's, this is a foam windscreen here. We use it for plosives. It helps reduce the please bring pizza pronto. And it blocks me, and I'm also trying to talk across. But you have to outdoors, obviously, for a wind thing, as a windscreen, you have to use something like that. That is called in the business a dead cat, because it looks like, well, let's see if I can back that video up.
Yeah.
I'll turn the audio off, but it looks like
a dead
cat. And it looks like
cotton candy.
Or cotton, yeah, gray cotton. Ooh, that's sudden. But you can see John there with his dead cat microphone, and it looks like it needs a good brushing.
Yes,
maybe that's what it needs. But okay, enough of that. Thanks, John, for that. But while we're on the laser and the laser radio, this class goes from Crutonic to Morso. The latest is two things. One is that you see here the ILCAs, the International Laser Class Association, and there's been the dispute over the copyright, which at least the trial court in Connecticut has awarded in favor of the designer Bruce Kirby millions of dollars from rights holders who've been building the boats but not paying to Mr. Kirby. Apparently, what the court, at least, and the jury found, he was owed something like $4 to $5 million. So the International Laser Class Association has filed to rename the boat the ILCA, the ILCA, the International Laser Class Association. In the meantime, Laser Performance, who we had Mr. Rastegar. Rastegar is his first name, right? What's his last name? Somebody will help us again. I have a mental block. They are pressing on, and they sent out an announcement today saying that all the old lasers that they have manufactured and one of the other licensed manufacturers they're forming a new class association called the Laser Class. These boats will then all race together under the Laser Class, separate from ILCA. ILCA will be the Olympic laser, and if they decide to change to a carbon spar on the ILCA, well, this class is going to stick apparently with either a new spar they make or an aluminum, the current lower section, which is aluminum. It's completely confusing, but they must have been listening to our show. Farzad Rastegar.
There we go.
Right, from memory. I don't know where I dragged that out. But they say in their press release, this new The Laser Class, which I'm going to call, of course, TLC for Tender Loving Care, is for sailors by sailors. I didn't make that up. That, of course, is what we've been saying on here when we were leading the charge or helping to lead the charge against the non-sailing CEO, the horrible Hunt. I'm sure he's a fine guy, but he was not a good non-sailing CEO. For sailors by sailors, which is, of course, also Gerardo Seeliger's claim, I think, or one of his claims for being in his presidential bid. Also, Luca Devoti saying for sailors by sailors, which is what. But this class now is saying, well, we're starting a new class of the existing laser. In fact, kind of the old lasers is the way if I'm reading this correctly. And we're going to run events. We're going to run a world championship, and anybody can come. But it's sort of what Laser Performance did to the Sunfish class. They had a big dispute with the existing Owners Association. They tried to make some changes. The owners didn't want them made, so they went off and formed a new Sunfish class. And that conflict is still going on. So World Sailing has got to step in and sort this out on behalf of the sailors. But wait, there's more. EurILCA, that is the European International Laser Class Association. Fozy sent me these papers this morning, which are supposed to be internal, I guess, not a big secret. But they're sending around some papers and proposals on how to get control of the International Laser Class Association by the Europeans, because they're upset with the current American or North American leadership of the class, who is both the president and the executive secretary are Americans. And they're proposing an extraordinary general meeting, which, because of the coronavirus, is now apparently, I'm one hears, is going to be held by conference call. And they're going to try to vote out the current president and then get a new president who's European, because they claim 80% of the laser sailors are in Europe. I'm not sure that's quite true. But then they try to get fired the Secretary General or Executive Secretary, whatever they call him, who's down in Texas, of the class. So the laser class is FUBAR and continues to be FUBAR. And if you don't know what that means, look that up in your urban dictionary. It's fudged up beyond all recognition. Doubly so as of today. I'm going to get Jean-Pierre or someone else on here who understands and is a neutral party, is a keen observer of the passing scene, to give us, and maybe instead of doing it on the show, I'll record a second, but it's sad. Okay, that's about it for us. I want to, unless there's any pressing, Julia, questions or comments, I do want to do one other Bravo Zulu here at the end of the show, and it even, believe it or not, relates to sailing. Now, you say, how does a hockey goalie, relate to sailing? This gentleman is one of the finest people you'll ever meet. He's got to be mid-80s, maybe something like that. His name is Ross Childs, originally from Canada, came down to Ann Arbor, played goalie for Michigan, the University of Michigan hockey team, and then actually went and played out one season. They were short of forwards, and they had many goalies. He says, well, I'll go play out as a skater, which is pretty rare. You specialize in most sports to one position or another, but it's sort of like, well, it happens in football, but rarely does it happen in hockey. And this guy was a superb hockey player. I think he was an All-American and on a national championship team and so on and so forth. But the point of this guy has been, his whole life has been dedicated to hockey, youth hockey. He's been a county administrator and in a couple different counties in Michigan, where he's done a superb job, both in Ann Arbor area, but up in northern Michigan. Long story short, he was my hockey coach when I was in my teens, used to run the Ann Arbor Amateur Hockey Association. He's the one who talked me into taking over as the league director, which I did for 6 years when I was in college and after, as a part-time job. And on the strength of that, I learned something about association management and ended up at USYRU. And because of running USYRU for 6 years, ended up in the America's Cup and now here on TFE Live. So this guy he was a mentor, a coach, dear friend, and he also was a sailor. He said, well, I've taught you how to play hockey, which he did, he and others, but now I want you to teach me how to sail. Okay, Ross came out, he bought a Flying Scot, put his wife and kids in it, sailed around the lake, learned how to sail, and got pretty good at it. Because he says that looks like a cool sport, and cool people do go sailing, so I want to be a cool sailor.
Right.
And he did. So congratulations to him. He has been named by the American Hockey Coaches Association to their highest award, the Lou Lamoriello Award. Those of you in the Northeast will know what that's all about, and that will be awarded during the College National Championship, I guess next month or maybe in early April. And congrats to Ross Childs, who is just one of the coolest people you'd ever hope to meet, sailing, hockey, or otherwise. Okay, that's it, unless we've got any other pressing comments. I see John Emmett's given us a link. Also did an interview with Maxime Jonker. Yeah, is it Jonker, John, or Jonker? It must be Jonker. Nobody in Europe uses a hard J, do they? Except the Brits. Jay Hanfield's pointing out that Eric Hall was a goalie at Michigan. Was he a goalie at Michigan? Yes, he was. And his brother played at Colorado, I think, in his sailing team. Mario Sampaio, by now this miserable affair has become pathetic. Greed will kill the laser. Mario Sampaio, I couldn't agree more. By now this miserable affair has become pathetic. Greed will kill the laser. World Sailing should have stepped in years ago and sorted this out. You have class associations like the Star class, like the Finn class. That's why you have owner-driven, for sailors by, really, not owned by a manufacturer, a class association controlled by a manufacturer. And that's why those classes have worked. That's how our sport has always worked. And the laser class, with some leadership from World Sailing, could go back to some kind of a combo effect with the manufacturers playing a strong role and with the class owners having a class owners association that actually works. You agree?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mario Sampaio, for that. Gary Roberts is saying LPE laser performance will now not get a license to build. Yes, the ILCA lasers, the new lasers, they have now licensed some other people. And Clark Chapin is saying, how about for Rastegar by Rastegar? I'm going to try to get him back on. I'm going to try to get him back on, explain what the hell is going on from his side of the story, and we'll try to get Mr. Usher, who's the current president of the ILCA laser class, International Laser Class Association, get him back on and see what's going on. And we'll try to get somebody from EurILCA, the European. But we got to boil this down. And bottom line, world sailing, you've got to go sort this out. That's what you should be doing instead of all this other junk.
Yeah, everybody's going to lose if something doesn't
Everybody's going to lose. Okay. We're winning next Tuesday because we've got a terrific guy coming on. I've only gotten to know him in the last few months. Chris Museler, who lives in Jamestown, Rhode Island, which is Connecticut Island right in the middle of Narragansett Bay, big island. And Chris is a very interesting character. He is cool. He's a cool cat. He is a freelance journalist working in the field since '95. He has been a newspaper reporter, public relations manager, spokesman for the governor of Rhode Island, and a professional sailor. His work appears in magazines and newspapers around the world, including the New York Times. He's become the Stringer, the New York Times yachting writer of late. Also, Outside, Yachting World, Rhode Island Monthly, and Wooden Boat. And the guy's lately turned to broadcasting. Take that off there. You can see he's got a mic in his hand. He was down doing shows, live streaming in Melbourne.
Terrific. And
did a terrific job. And it's nice to see guys pick up, in this case, not the cudgel, but the microphone, and do what he's doing. He will be on our show next Tuesday, live via Skype from Jamestown, Rhode Island. So we'll look forward to that. As I told you on Tuesday, you can, if you're struggling to find all of our past videos, they're now not only on our Facebook page, but also on our YouTube page. Just simply Google TFE Live. And here are the top 4 returns on any search with TFE Live. We're so popular now. Not exactly Justin Bieber numbers, but when we're getting 5,000 views per show, and Clark Chapin gave us some more stats this morning, Julia, yes. It's pretty good.
What I like is that the graph is straight up.
It's a hockey stick.
Hockey stick?
You know, it goes flat, and then all of a sudden there's a big hockey stick curve, the statisticians call. You can also support us, of course, in the usual way. Julia likes to say at this stage in the show,
don't forget.
Like, share, and subscribe. I like to say go to our main website and join us as a patron via Patreon, or you can join via PayPal at paypal.me/SailingIllustrated. Okay. Thanks to everyone who gave us videos and audio and images for today's show. Hope you will join us on Tuesday next week. Same time, same channel. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.